Greetings, friends, loved ones. I trust you're well. You know, it's astounding to think how much the world has changed in such a brief time. Each of us have had our lives and communities disrupted. Of course, I'm here with you in this. And I feel that I'm really in no position to tell you how to feel or how to think or how to look at this situation, but there are a few things that come to mind that I will share as we continue to look at the Lord's Prayer together and consider it in these days. Right now, personally, I'm trying to psychologically and spiritually and personally take in what God is trying to say. And when I use that phrase, I'm not in any way suggesting or saying that God causes suffering in order to teach us good things. But God is a redeemer, and He uses everything. He does not waste anything. And if God wanted us to experience global solidarity like we have never experienced before, I can't think of a better way for that to be carried out. We all have access to this suffering and have been influenced in varying degrees by it. It bypasses the boundaries of race and social class and status and gender and ethnicity and religion and nationality. It bypasses all of those things. I believe we are in the midst of a highly teachable moment and opportunity in the Holy Spirit. There's no doubt that this period of time, this season that we're going through, will be referred to for the rest of our lifetimes. We have a chance here to go deep and go broad with God. Globally, we're in this together. Depth is being forced upon us by this great suffering and disruption and inconvenience to our lives as normal, which I believe is going to lead us, if we will let it, to great love. But for God to reach us, for God to break through to us, we have to be learnable. We have to be teachable. We have to allow suffering to wound us. Now is no time for some form of cerebral or sentimental solidarity with the world. Real solidarity is needed, and it needs to be felt and suffered personally by each one of us. In fact, that's the real meaning of the word suffer. To allow someone else's pain and struggle and suffering to influence me, to impact us in a very real way. We need to move beyond our own personal feelings in this and take in the whole, the big picture, the larger perspective here, God's eye view, if you will. And, you know, this perhaps is one of the gifts of the internet and social media. We can virtually see how people in other countries, other than our own, are hurting. What is going to happen to those who are living in isolated places, third world nations, or for those who don't have health care? Imagine the fragility of those that are the most marginalized, the people in prisons and and care centers, the homeless, or even people performing the necessary essential services, as we have been calling them, such as ambulance drivers and nurses and doctors and grocery store workers, risking their lives in order to keep society together as much as is humanly possible. Our feelings of urgency and devastation, I don't believe, are exaggerated in any way. We are responding to the real human situation that is at hand. We're not pushing the panic button. We are the panic button, particularly as the people of God, as the people of Messiah and his kingdom, as redemptive agents and ambassadors of reconciliation for Christ in the world. We have to allow these feelings to happen within us and to invite God's presence to hold and sustain us in this season. Hold and sustain us in a time of collective prayer and lament. I hope this experience will push our attention more outwards than it ever has been, to the suffering, to the most vulnerable all around us. Love always means going beyond ourselves. It always means moving toward otherness. We've got to be stretched in this way and beyond the stretch with God in this way to an encounter with otherness. And only then do we know the power of true love, the greatness of love. Love alone overcomes fear, as the Bible tells us, and it is the true foundation that lasts. Love never fails, St. Paul teaches us. Love never fails. So in the Lord's Prayer, as we come to Jesus' words now in verse 11 of Matthew chapter 6, give us today the bread we need today, Jesus says. It's a prayer for our daily bread, and it reflects a most basic human need. This elementary staple, it sits at the heart of the Lord's Prayer, and it affirms our shared dependence on the Father for provision and regular sustenance. For people who do not suffer from hunger or the effects of famine, it can be easy for us to overlook the primary importance of seeking God daily for something as simple and as domesticated as meals. Yet Jesus teaches us to pray this prayer not only for those who go hungry in God's world, but for ourselves as well. For many, what often seems most urgent to us are the myriad of things on our to-do lists. Transporting kids to and from school or sporting events, appointments, responding to a myriad of text messages and emails and academic course loads that we're carrying, meeting work goals, fighting crucial spiritual battles we may be facing, all of these things that seem most urgent. However, the fact is, we cannot do any of these things on an empty stomach. It's as plain and simple as that. There's a general sense here which the prayer for our daily bread is just that. Lord, please give us the bread we need now, today, and when tomorrow comes, for tomorrow as well. Even so, for those who are impacted by unjust systems or structures or poverty or unemployment or lack of access to clean drinking water and something as simple as daily bread to eat, it's not assumed that ordinary life will automatically include ordinary food that we all need. In this world of plenty, there are millions of people who starve, many of whom are children, and it's heartbreaking. We must be praying for daily bread for ourselves and particularly for those who need it, with whom we should even share it. This is not a prayer that we just pray once and then forget about. Rather, the Lord's Prayer encourages us to continue asking God for the basic things we need and to continue confessing the ways in which we have messed up. And as we listen to the whisper of the Holy Spirit, we remember the people who are hungry for God, who are hungry for love, who are starving for bread. This prayer is also particularly poignant because Jesus, as the bread of life, is the source of spiritual nourishment for his people, for the world. Indeed, the Lord's Supper, every time we gather around the Lord's table, we are reminded of that. It's one of the ways that this prayer is specifically answered. Every time we break bread together around the Lord's table, his nourishing presence is revealed to us. In fact, in the Gospel of Luke, which differs slightly from Matthew's account, Jesus teaches his disciples to ask the Father to give us each day our daily bread. There's added emphasis there. So in these words, we see then that Jesus is talking about all these things, but also about more than these things we have just considered together. He's issuing to us an invitation for us to come to the Father daily for refreshing, for renewal, for nourishment, for both our souls and our bodies. This phrase, give us this day our daily bread, registers for us a specific command to recognize our dependency on the Lord for all our nourishment, and to realize that this provision for our needs flows out of the practice of daily living our lives of prayer. It's powerful. Learning to pray, give us this day our daily bread, finds in the Lord a strength that is proportionate to each day's needs. Whatever challenges the day holds for us, beloved, confrontations, difficulties, conflicts, even tragedies, we will receive strength to face it. Just as we derive physical strength and nourishment from eating daily bread, so we will gain strength and nourishment when we learn the wisdom of acknowledging our dependency on the Father and pray this way, even in these days of pandemic. God bless you.